Pastor Ed here with Daily Devotions for Wednesday, October the 11th, 2023. As I mentioned at the end of my devotion yesterday, this will be the last one for this week. We're going to be taking off tomorrow, Friday, and Saturday, and then coming back next Tuesday once Josh returns from vacation and is available to post these for me again. But this is going to wrap up this last section of Life Keys, but also the whole unit on the whole Life Keys program. Again, it's a great book. I encourage you to, if any of this was of interest to you or to maybe of interest to somebody that you know, point them in the direction. It's a great book. Frederick Buechner, in his book, The Hungry Dark, talks about looking back at his high school yearbooks. He plays a sad game of remembering what all his classmates hoped and dreamed of becoming. In my class, as in any class at any school, he writes, there were students who had a real flair, a real talent for something. Maybe it was for writing or acting or sports. Maybe it was an interest and a joy in working with people. Sometimes it was just their capacity for being so alive that made you more alive to be with them. And yet now, a good many years later, I have the feeling that more than just a few of them are spending their lives at work in which none of these gifts is being used. This is the sadness of the game. Dante Gabriel Rossetti, the famous 19th century poet and artist, was once approached by an elderly man. The old fellow had some sketches and drawings that he wanted Rossetti to look at and tell him if they were any good or if they at least showed some potential talent. Rossetti looked at them carefully, and after the first few, though, he knew that they didn't show the least bit of artistic talent. But Rossetti was a kind man. He told the elderly fellow as gently as possible that the pictures were without much value and showed little talent. He was sorry, but he could not lie to the man. The stranger was disappointed, but he seemed to accept Rossetti's judgment. And he then apologized for taking up Rossetti's time, but would he just look at a few more drawings, these done by a young art student? Rossetti looked over the second batch of sketches and was immediately enthused over the talent they revealed. These, he said, these are good. This young man, whoever he is, has great talent. He should be given every help and encouragement in his career as an artist. He has a great future if he will work hard and stick with it. Rossetti could see that the old man was deeply moved. Who is this fine young artist? He inquired. Is it your son? No, said the old fellow sadly. It's me. 40 years ago, that is. If only I heard your praise then. For you see, I got discouraged and gave up too soon. The authors of Life Keys conclude their book by asking us to reflect on the themes that we've been considering these past weeks. Do you believe that you are created in the image of God? Do you believe that God has given you a special blend of life gifts and spiritual gifts and personality type and values? Do you believe that God has planned good works for you to do? David was just a poor shepherd boy, but God chose him to be the king of Israel. The apostles were chosen to be the leaders of the early church, but they had to learn what they were specifically called to do and what could be delegated to others. The servants in Jesus' parable of the talents were all given talents, just as we were all given individual talents and abilities, but one of the servants was too afraid to invest his. Will we, or have we, been guilty of the very same thing? Each of us is like a piece of a jigsaw puzzle, as we heard. Every piece has its place in God's plan. Every piece is a perfect fit somewhere. The story is told of a boy nicknamed Sparky. For Sparky, school was all but impossible. He failed every subject in the 8th grade. He flunked physics in high school, getting a grade of 0. Sparky also failed Latin, algebra, and English. He didn't do much better in sports. Although he did manage to make the school's golf team, he promptly lost the important match of the season. There was a consolation match, and he lost that one too. Throughout his youth, Sparky was awkward socially. He was not actually disliked by the other students. It was just that no one cared that much one way or the other about him. He was astonished if a classmate ever even said hello to him outside of school hours. There was no way to tell how he might have done at dating, for Sparky never once asked a girl to go out in high school. He was too afraid of being turned down. In short, Sparky was a loser. He, his classmates, everyone knew it. And so he rolled with it. Sparky had made up his mind early in life that if things were meant to work out, they would. Otherwise, he would content himself with what appeared to be his inevitable mediocrity. However, one thing was important to Sparky: drawing. He was proud of his artwork. Of course, no one else appreciated it. In his senior year of high school, he submitted some cartoons to the editors of the yearbook, and the cartoons were turned down. Despite this particular rejection, Sparky was so convinced of his ability that he decided to become a professional artist. After completing high school, he wrote a letter to Walt Disney Studios. He was told to send some samples of his artwork, and the subject for a cartoon was suggested. Sparky drew the proposed cartoon. He spent a great deal of time on it and on all the other drawings he submitted. Finally, the reply came from Disney Studios. He had been rejected once again. Another loss for the loser. And so Sparky decided to write his own autobiography in cartoons. He described his childhood self, a little boy loser and chronic underachiever. The cartoon would soon become famous worldwide. For Sparky, the boy who had such a lack of success in school and whose work was rejected again and again, was none other than Charles Schulz. As you probably know, he created the Peanuts comic strip and the little cartoon character whose kite would never fly, whose baseball team always lost, and who never succeeded in kicking a football, Charlie Brown. The Lord does not see as mortals see. They look on the outward appearance, but the Lord looks on the heart. God knows us better than we know ourselves, and he made us who we are so that we can find our particular place in the world and then serve him with our God-given talents and abilities. To do anything less is not only to deny ourselves, it's to deny God's purposes as well. So again, I encourage you to think about what we've been reflecting on these past weeks, this idea of life gifts and, the life keys, the spiritual gifts and the life gifts, the passions that we have, the interests that we have, the values that we stand for and make and prioritize in our lives, and think about how maybe we're best to be used. And maybe we're a young person and we still have most of our life in front of us. Maybe we're in the middle of life. Maybe we're like myself at the other end. But there's still an opportunity to stop and take stock and say, hey, I'm doing exactly what I've been called to do, what God wants me to do. But maybe I need to change some things. Maybe do things a little bit differently. Maybe to strike out in a slightly different direction. That's our choice to make. But it comes from understanding who we are and who God has created us to be. Well, I hope you have a great day. Hope you have a great rest of the week. As I said, I'll be back with you next Tuesday with a whole new set of daily devotions, and looking forward to having you join me then again as well. Until then, take care. Bye.